Hi, my name is Andy Knight. I'm the director of the Lab at SCR, and I'm here to talk about the Pacific Playwrights Festival. So if you want to hear more about that, check out this conversation.
Theater experience. Why is it such a unique format, both for the audience and the actors performing it?
I think that theater is totally unique to itself because it is both a collective experience and an individual experience, both for the audiences and the theater makers, certainly the actors performing the play and everyone supporting it backstage. It is an art form where you collectively take in a story together and feed off of both the audience and the live performers in front of you. And so in that sense, you have a collective experience. You are enjoying something with others and feeding off of their sort of reactions. But it's also an individual experience because everyone is going to see a play differently. Everyone in that space together is also having an individual experience watching the play on their own.
Would you also to expand it? Would you also say it's a unique community experience? Tell us how this is a community experience for the local Orange County, Southern California.
Yeah, it's also a unique experience for local audiences here in Orange County coming to South Coast Repertory because we are making theater for our community and the plays that we're producing on our stages or developing in our festivals and various workshops are plays that are being grown here in Orange County for South Coast Repertory audiences. And so it certainly speaks to the environment that we were in, the communities that we belong to. And that's what makes it sort of a truly special and local experience as well.
Tell us about the SCR Pacific Playwright Festival history and why is it such an important part of the South Coast Repertory Theater?
Yeah, so we've been doing the Pacific Playwrights Festival since 1998 here at South Coast Repertory. It's had various formats within it, but now it includes 7 new plays across 3 days, 5 staged readings, and 2 world premiere productions. And it's become a really integral part of the South Coast Repertory producing pipeline and also as a national showcase for new plays. Many of the world premieres that end up on South Coast Repertory stages in full production begin their development process here in the Pacific Playwrights Festival. Many of the plays that we commission here at South Coast Repertory are developed in the Pacific Playwrights Festival. So it's really a first look at some of the stuff that might end up on our stages. And then beyond that, the Pacific Playwrights Festival has launched so many plays into the American theater canon over the years, both plays that we've developed, plays that we've produced, and then plays that we've developed and produced have gone on to productions on Broadway, off Broadway, and around the regional circuit here in the United States, and as well as abroad. And so it's really become a pinnacle event for us each spring and each season here at SCR.
Why are play readings so important to the creation of a play or a musical for both the playwright and also for the theater who's producing it?
Mhm. Play readings are a really important part of the developmental process of a play because theater is meant to be experienced live, and plays are written documents that are meant to be performed. They're meant to be heard in the air. So very often, play readings are the first time that we are able to both like the staff at South Coast Repertory, but also the audiences that come to South Coast Repertory are able to hear a play and begin to imagine what it might look like in 3 dimensions. As a part of that, it's also an opportunity for the playwright and the director and all the artists involved to understand what is working, what is resonating with audiences, what isn't working, what jokes are getting laughs, what jokes aren't getting laughs, what moments are moving audiences, when are they leaning in, when are they leaning back, when is it too short, when is it too long? All of those questions that people have as they're writing plays, as they're workshopping plays, so often are quickly answered once you get it out in front of an audience in a new play reading. The other great thing about play readings is, as a developmental step, it allows you to have a certain amount of focus on sort of how text transfers into performance without worrying about all of the sort of physical and production elements at the very same time. How are we going to make this work is a different question than how does this sound in the air when an actor speaks it, which is a different question than how does this work on the page. And so it lets you kind of really focus on those last two answers. How's it working on the page? How does it sound in the air? Before you then move on to the step of like, how does this exist in three dimensions as a holistic experience?
And to add on, do you think that this excites the people who see the reading and then the next year or two, then they see potentially the full production? It gets them excited to actually come back to this play.
Yeah, I think it really does excite people to see something in a reading format and then to come back and get to see it in a full production. And I think that, that functions on a few levels. Certainly, you get to be sort of like the first one that gets to experience the piece when you see it in the reading, and then you remember the moments that you love and the things that were exciting about the play, and then you get to see how they did it, how they figured it out, how they made it work in its full form. You also get to see what's changed, how the play's grown. Many of these plays that we develop in the festival as a part of readings go on to many different developmental steps. Sometimes where we go back and we do more development and we do another reading of it, whether that has a public component or not, but just time for the playwright, the director, and the cast to sort of really look at the text. And then we also start to sometimes do production workshops where we start to really say, okay, let's bring everyone who builds this play together here at South Coast Repertory so they can start thinking about all aspects of the play. And over the course of that time, the play will really change. And so very often what you experienced in your mind's eye when you saw a staged reading and where the play actually ends up in production are very, very different things. So it's really fun to see something in development and then get to see it in its full form as a production.
Tell us about the 2025 Pacific Playwrights Festival, the playwrights, the readings, and full productions.
As I mentioned, we have seven new plays as a part of the Pacific Playwrights Festival this year. Two of those plays are world premiere productions, which I'll talk about first. The very first world premiere production that we are opening here at South Coast Rep is on the Segerstrom stage. It is a play called "You Are Cordially Invited to the End of the World" by Keiko Green. This play was developed in the 2024 festival, so just last year we had it as a staged reading in the festival. And it's a really exciting, funny, moving, kaleidoscopic play that looks at the idea of living and dying and existing and continuing to survive through it all. It's very much a family story. It centers on a father and a family being diagnosed with a terminal illness and how the world sort of opens up when that happens. He sees a connection between the environmental degradation around him, the world in a respect is dying while he is also dying. He sees that link and it sort of changes everything. It changes how he sees everything. So it's a really sort of beautiful, thoughtful piece in that respect. But it's also wildly funny. It is a comedy. Keiko Green is sort of a brilliant comedic writer, so imaginative. So audiences that come see that show are really going to have this like complete and full experience, this really sort of rich, wild, funny ride that then really moves you by the end of the play. The second world premiere production that we actually just started rehearsals for this week is The Staircase by Noah Gardner. That is an SCR commission, and we developed it in our 2023 Pacific Playwrights Festival, so two festivals ago. And we're so excited to finally have it come to fruition on our stages here. Noah's play tells the story of a Hawaiian family or Hawaiian mother and son living together on the island and trying to navigate a tricky and thorny past while also trying to look ahead at the future. It's a really beautiful meditative play that combines Hawaiian myth, Oli or Hawaiian chant, Pahu drumming, Hawaiian drumming in the piece creates this sort of wonderful tapestry that you're going to see on the stage while telling a really moving and heartfelt story about a challenging relationship between a mother and a son and a family at large. It's really beautiful. This is Noah's first professional production, so we're excited to partner with him on that. And I think that audiences are really going to love the piece. Our five staged readings. The first reading is a play called Rachel, Nevada by Jose Sebastian Alberti. It tells a story that is set in Rachel, Nevada, which is very, very close to Roswell, and so there is a sort of close encounters feel to the piece that is telling a story about grief and love and connection. It is a really beautifully sort of like rich language, emotion, and subtext driven piece. And Sebastian's a very exciting writer. Sebastian is also commissioned with South Coast Repertory. This is actually not his SCR commission, but we're excited to share his work with audiences here at SCR. The second reading is a play called The Red Man by Jacoby Johnson, and it is a story of a twin brother and sister, an adult twin brother and sister who are in Florida, who are sort of reeling from some big changes in their lives that are connected to a long-held secret within their family. It is a horror play. It is wildly energetic and funny. And Jacoby is a really beautiful poetic writer. And so I think you're going to have a really dynamic experience if you come see The Red Man. The third play is a play called Eat Me by Talene Monahan. And Talene Monahan's play Eat Me, you can see, you have three opportunities to see it across the weekend, once on Friday night, once on Saturday night, and once on Sunday afternoon. It is a story about consumption. It is a story about how you go through the world and find what gives you pleasure, what gives you sustenance, what moves you forward in both a metaphorical way and sometimes a literal way. Um, it's very, very funny. It's very sharp. It is an extremely exciting experience because you sometimes don't know what you're going to be confronted with next in this piece in terms of where the story is going to go, how these characters are going to evolve and change. And so it packs these wonderful surprises into Lean's writing. Um, on Saturday morning, we have a reading called 10 Grand by Kate Cortese. That is also an SCR commission. And that is a play that is set in a Goodwill in Boston in around 2010. And it is a really wonderfully character-driven piece. It tells the story of both the people that work at the Goodwill and also the sort of customers that come in. And it looks at the huge stakes within what seem like tiny lives and how those things can blossom open once you get to know people. And then the final reading we have is a play called Trip Around the Sun by Jake Brash. That's on Sunday morning. It follows two retirees who live in a community a sort of Jimmy Buffett themed community for parrot head retirees. And it is an elderly couple who are prepared to leave for a big cruise for Sue's the wife's birthday. But the night before they leave, Phil, the husband, sort of drops a big surprise on her, and so it's about the night before they leave and trying to figure out what to do. It's very funny. It's very lively. It's ultimately a moving piece. Jake is a wonderful writer who has such a sharp and exciting wit, and so we're excited to introduce him to our audiences as well.
What do you want the local SoCal theater community and theater creatives to get out of your play festival?
We want Southern California audiences and new play lovers to come to the festival and experience a wide array of stories. That's really important. We want audiences to come into each reading and feel like they're hearing a story, they're experiencing a story in a way that was completely unlike the one they saw before that. We want audiences to laugh. We want audiences to feel things. We want audiences to come and have a collective experience and mingle and talk about the plays and share what excited them, share when they were leaning forward and couldn't get enough about the piece. And we also want to give audiences a sneak peek of plays that might end up on South Coast Repertory stages.
Heard this mentioned several times when I'm at your festival. People say live theater is good for the soul. Why is live theater good for the soul?
Live theater is good for the soul because it speaks to the world. Since theater is a live event that is happening in front of you in that moment, it inherently speaks to where you are at that moment. Whatever you're bringing into the theater, whatever you're setting aside at the theater door as an audience member, it is a very special experience that only happens in that moment. And then once again, the idea of hearing stories, experiencing stories creates empathy. It puts, frankly, it gives your body serotonin, gives you adrenaline at times. It physically it makes you feel better. And then there's also the aspect that it's a social experience. And, it's something that we need right now. We need to get out of our houses. We need to be with other people and sort of remember each other's humanity and why it's so important and why it's at the essence of why we do what we do in our everyday lives.
And why is the SCR Playwright Festival so important, not only to your theater, but the whole theater community?
The Pacific Playwrights Festival is important to both South Coast Repertory and the greater theater community because it is a chance to launch plays. It is a chance. We have a big, huge group of local new play fans who come to the festival, but we also have many industry professionals from other theaters from across the country coming to see these new plays to see what they might produce on their stages. So these plays by being in the festival are really launched into the world in a sense. And so they are the sort of very often the next great classics. And audiences at South Coast Repertory get to see them first.
What is your favorite part of this festival?
My favorite part of the festival, um, I would say that my favorite part of the festival is kind of what I referenced earlier of getting to see seven completely different stories told in a very condensed period of time. Since it's only 3 days, you're seeing a lot of plays. To get seven plays in across 3 days, you're getting a lot of back-to-back play experiences. And that's actually it's really fatiguing. It takes your brain power, it takes your heart power. But I think that once you see those seven plays, you see those dynamic experiences, you feel so incredibly full. So I would say that when we're in that final reading on Sunday morning, it's actually my favorite part of the festival because I'm sort of my mind is going really fast. It's really spinning because of all the theatrical experiences that I've had.
There's a little extra thing that you get if you go see all 3 days is the playwrights panel. Why is that such a unique experience, the SCR playwrights panel?
Yeah, the Sunday morning playwrights panel is a sort of an extra bonus feature for festival diehards. It's free, it's open to the public, it's not ticketed, anyone can come. But we usually find that the people that have seen everything across the weekend are the ones that are most excited to attend the panel. And it's wonderful because it's an opportunity to, in a great way, you're meeting these plays with very little context about what the writer was thinking about when they were writing it, what the play is even about. We just have these very short blurbs. And so you're kind of coming into these reading and production experiences with very little context about them. And so the playwrights panel is finally a chance for the writers to speak to the work that they've done and why they wrote the plays that they wrote and what those plays mean to them. And it's also your chance as audiences to have some time to ask questions of the playwrights about what you experienced, what their process is as a writer, and if they haven't shared it already, what their inspiration for the play was.
Concerning the two full play productions, why did you choose those two plays as the cornerstone for this playwright festival?
I mean, for many reasons. I think that they're exceptional pieces of writing. They're exceptional pieces of theater. Both are really speaking to a deeply contemporary human experience. They are incredibly moving while also being incredibly lively pieces of theatrical writing. So certainly that first and huge guiding light of the quality of these pieces. But also we also think about the festival when we're curating both the full productions and then also the stage readings themselves, about how all these pieces are going to fit together for anyone coming to the full experience. We don't want two full productions on our stages that are really similar to each other since they're playing next to each other. And I think Keiko and Noah's plays both have that exemplary quality while also being vividly different pieces of writing.
Can you talk about how people can experience a weekend, the different public packages, how they can purchase tickets, either individually or as a package?
Yeah, absolutely. So audiences can come to the festival in a variety of ways. Certainly, if you go online, if you go to scr.org, there's going to be a link at the top under productions that will lead you to the Pacific Playwrights Festival webpage. And there you can buy individual tickets. If you only have a day to spare, you only have a couple hours on one day to spare, come see a reading. You can just come see one reading individually. You can also buy a package to all five readings. And then in addition to the package of five readings, if you really want to go for the full experience and you haven't seen the two productions yet, you can also buy tickets to the productions. And we're very careful with how we schedule the festival that you can catch everything and not miss anything because while some things play at the same time, there's always an opportunity to see it at a different time if you're catching something. So there are a variety of ways, and if you visit scr.org, you can find all the ways there.
Very important question. Why should or must the SoCal theater community attend the Pacific Playwrights Festival at South Coast Repertory?
I think that the SoCal theater community and the greater SoCal community should come see the Pacific Playwrights Festival at South Coast Repertory because theater is an integral part of the human experience. If you haven't been to the theater, I encourage you to come because you will certainly be changed. And you should come because new plays need audiences. New plays need you to hear that play first so that artists working on the plays can hear what you think of the play while it's in its early stages. And I think people should also come because it's a fun new play party. It's a wildly social, boisterous, energetic event, and you shouldn't miss out on some fun.
To have a great playwrights festival, which you always do, there must be a pipeline and department that prepares and guides the playwrights to get them to the playwrights
Mhm.
festival. Tell us about the lab at SCR and the different commissions that you do offer to these different playwrights.
Yeah, so the Pacific Playwrights Festival is part of the Lab at SCR, which is sort of the umbrella term for all the new play programs here at South Coast Repertory, which includes, in addition to the festival, our samples from the Lab program, in-house workshops, all of our new play commissions, and all of that. As you mentioned, is sort of a pipeline to put new plays on our stages. So we have about between 50 to 60 active commissions where we've basically hired playwrights to write plays for South Coast Repertory or to write plays with South Coast Repertory in mind. And SCR has an opportunity to work with those playwrights as they're writing a brand new play. So it is a way for us to kind of get in at the point of inception at the ground floor on these new plays. And then we have a variety of developmental programs too that can happen before PPF, before something is read in PPF as a developmental reading, and certainly after it's read in PPF as we look towards producing it. And those programs include our samples from the lab program, which is a sort of flexible public program that happens as pop-ups throughout the year. Pop-ups meaning they aren't scheduled too far in advance. We usually schedule them about a month in advance because they're really about, hey, if you're an artist coming to develop your new play at South Coast Repertory through a workshop, and it is useful to have a small audience come and see the piece so you can get feedback, what's going to be helpful for them to hear. So that can be a traditional staged reading like the readings in our Pacific Playwrights Festival, but it could also be reading excerpts. It could also be reading a first act or reading a couple alternate scenes that the playwright isn't sure about that they want to hear an audience's reaction to. It could be, if we're working on a new musical, hearing selected songs from the new musical, just getting folks who are SCR audiences into the theater to be part of the developmental process itself. So it's almost like throwing open the doors of the rehearsal room, as opposed to creating a presentation to share with audiences specifically. And then we have all kinds of in-house workshops. In-house meaning there isn't a public component. There isn't an audience attending that. And that's because very often that's very kind of specific process-driven work where the playwright and director or the team might be looking at something very specific that frankly is not ready for public consumption or sometimes is less interesting for an audience to see. And so those are what we call our in-house workshops.
What would you tell other playwrights, actors, directors, and artists why they should get involved with great theater like South Coast Repertory?
I would tell theater artists to get involved with South Coast Repertory because we are very much an artist-driven institution. We are an institution that wants to serve artists. We work with so many artists across a season, and so many artists of different disciplines, certainly playwrights, directors, actors, also designers, dramaturgs, consultants, other generative artists. And so I would encourage them to work with South Coast Repertory because we love play, we love experimentation, we love supporting artists and meeting new artists and working with them. So many of the artists, for example, that we're working with on our stages are emerging writers and emerging artists, and that's a very exciting and important aspect of our programming because those are the future greats of tomorrow.
As you know, but not everybody in public knows this, that ticket sales don't actually cover a play production. That's only like a third at the most. So this is why I asked this question. How can people help theaters like you more, whether it's by donation? Tell us how people can help the great theater, South Coast Repertory Theater.
Yeah, there are so many ways to support South Coast Repertory. I always say, first and foremost, the most important thing that you can do is to buy a ticket and come to the theater. That is our lifeblood. Theater needs audiences, and it is so important that butts are in seats. But there are also ways if you visit our website that if you want to support South Coast Repertory as a donor, we love that. We're very excited to meet new people through their donations. And you often get perks if you're a donor to South Coast Repertory, inside access, a first look at things. And you can come to our first night, our opening night performances. So if you go to our webpage, scr.org, there will be a button that says support, and that will show you the variety of ways that you can donate to South Coast Repertory. Hi, my name is Andy Knight. I am the director of the lab at South Coast Repertory. I encourage folks to come. I encourage folks to try something new, to dip your toe in the water. If you want to come to one reading, that's great. And if you want to come to all seven events, that's even better. To come to the Pacific Playwrights Festival at South Coast Repertory because it's the best way to see seven brand new plays in the Southern California area.